Hello. Welcome to the Smile Revolution Show. And I am Princess Wow. Welcome. I took a hiatus for a couple months doing my stage show, Princess Wow in Woodstock, how a hat designer started a revolution, going from depression to starting a revolution about joy. And really happy to be back, actually. Hi, Nancy. Thanks for joining. Anyway, so it's really great to be back. And someone else wants to say hi too. Miss Wow. She's actually wants to be on the show. She thinks it's really fun. Anyway, I want to make this is my 190th show for March 2020. Now, they weren't all interview shows. When the pandemic hit, it's like funny, I'm still talking about this, but I just started doing shows to help people smile. And then later on, Richard Skipper started his own interview show online. And then he got me into doing it. He showed me how to do this platform, StreamYard. But I want to thank my friends, my dream team, who helped me with my stage show that I did at Pangea in the East Village in mid-April, actually April 11th. Jessica Lynn Johnson, my developer and director, Laura Molitor, Doug Milford, Marianne Marischal, Jason Ellis, my videographer, and I forgot to ask, because today I did a short live and I forgot to say Antonia Casper, who's been a big help as well, and Richard Skipper, who was promoting my show on his weekly newsletter. So thank you all, because really all of you contributed so much, and I really appreciate all the help and everybody who came. Nancy was there. She came all the way from the Hudson Valley. So thank you, Nancy. And I'm going to do some smile quotes, and then we'll go into the interview. Okay, so I found these buttons recently, which I want to share. Life is good. And then here's another one. Focus on the good, which I'm working on myself. Gratitude helps you smile, right? Okay, so I'm going to share some smile quotes because this is the Smile Revolution Show. We raise awareness to the healing power of a genuine smile, which started in 2005 when my dad passed away. If some of you are going to watch live or on replay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you came. I know it was fun. And you got into the hat happening with the finale. That was fun too. That was really good. Okay, so Esther Francis. I had a radio show years ago, The Smile Revolution, and people would submit things. Oh, and I had a blog too. Okay, so a smile is the silent sign language that says life is good, you are good, and I am good, no matter what is happening. A smile is a sun that pierces through clouds of discouragement and brings a hug without arms. A smile is easy and costs nothing, but its value is immeasurable. I'm just reading some of hers. A smile is a welcome, an embrace, a generous flowering of heart conveyed effortlessly and joyously. Smiles sweep away the clutter of a worried mind. Oh yeah, the hat happening was so fun. I know. It's a really fun thing. I used to do, and maybe I'm going to get back to it. I would do a whole hour of a hat happening and tell stories and have people dancing with me and at senior homes and other venues. And yeah, so you just got a condensed version at the end. But I might be getting back to doing a whole hour again. We'll see. Okay, now I just want to read this too, and then we'll go into Ronald Rand, and I'll tell you his bio. It's so long, but I'll have to condense that too because has so much going on. Okay, so this was written 200 years ago by Rebbe Nachman. Okay, nothing is more damaging than depression. Depression is the cause of all kinds of ills, including sickness and disease. When you're happy, come what may, you are free. Your mind will be settled and you will understand things clearly. Try and turn your very depression and worry into joy. If you really set your mind to it, you will find that even amidst the worst troubles and suffering, there is an opening you can use to convert all the depression into joy. Number one, smile. Most people are full of pain and worry and all kinds of troubles. But when you come to them with a smiling face, you can literally give them life. Number 2, make it a habit to always sing a happy song. It will send joy into your soul. 3, judge others favorably. You may see much that is bad in them. Still, search out their good points. 4, judge yourself favorably. Sift through for your good points and take joy in them. 5, don't despair. If you believe you can damage, believe you can repair. 6, ask God or love to help you understand why you came into this world and how you can fulfill your purpose. 7, give some charity. Charity brings peace. 8, tell the truth. Truth brings peace. And know that in life, one has to pass over a very narrow bridge. The main thing is not to be afraid. Anyway, okay, so Ronald Rand, I'm going to find his bio here. Okay, so he's a U.S. Goodwill Culture Ambassador, performing artist, artistic director, and playwright of the critically acclaimed solo performance play, Let It Be Art. He's enjoyed immense response across 5 continents over 20 years, performing in his celebrated solo play, Let It Be Art, Harold Clurman's Life of Passion, in 26 countries, 20 U.S. states, 5 tours across India, and 3 off-Broadway critically acclaimed productions. I mean, it goes on and on. He's got 4 Fulbrights, if you know what that is, a Fulbright specialist. I think he's going to talk about it. And then he's a librettist. His acting career, he's appeared in over 250 plays at a professional children's theater in Florida. He tours all over the world. His TV appearances, he's been many TV shows, over 200 films. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And so he's also an author and award-winning author, best-selling author. And there's Laura. Hi, Laura. Thanks for joining. And so anyway, I'm going to bring him on, and we're going to hear about his fascinating life and all his great contributions. So here we go. Hi, Ronald.
Well, hello there, Princess. Wow, it's so great to see you today. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
It's so good to see you. I know this is so exciting. Well, we just saw each other recently in person for the first time.
That's right, we did. Thank you.
At your book talk.
Yeah, it's so kind of you to come. Yes, there it is.
Solo Transformation Stage.
Yes,
it's a great book. It's just a great book. A journey into the organic process of the art of transformation.
That's it.
Yeah,
yes.
So that was really great. And
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it was a wonderful book event. It was at the Lambs Club, and you were so kind to come. And we had an incredible panel. I mean, Tina Chen was there, the stage, film, and TV actress, and she's a wonderful dear friend. And all the way from the University of Patras, Dr. Katia Savrami, a wonderful professor of dance. I got to know her when I was there for 6 weeks. I was just there through the State Department as a Fulbright specialist. And so I got to teach 7 classes, and I got to know her really well. And as it turned out, she made so many things happen for me. And then when I told her I was going to be doing a book event at the Lambs Club, and it would be amazing, to have someone like you on the panel, she said, "What? You're doing a book event? I'll come to America."
Great. That's amazing. I know that was great. Yeah.
Yeah. And Nicole Ansari was also on the panel.
I love her. I think she's great. They're great people.
Beautiful actress, a beautiful person. And she's now one of the writer and producer. And she certainly has done so much acting, but she created Messy, this TV series. And so she's very busy. And of course, she's everywhere at the same time because her husband's Brian Cox. So I just saw her again on Facebook at another big event in England. And so she's all over the place. But
I know. I'm so glad I met her.
Yeah.
I know. She's really cool. She and I connected, and she lives up here in the Hudson Valley, too, and said, "I've seen you before." So she's seen me in the Chronogram magazine. She's noticed it. She's seen me.
Yeah,
So
it's a small world.
I'm gonna keep in touch with her.
Good. Yeah, it was a beautiful event.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, I'm so glad you came. Yeah.
And seeing Valerie David.
That's right. Valerie was
right?
there
Our,
too.
our
Yeah.
buddy, right?
Oh, so incredible. What a great performer. She does an incredible show and two shows now, and it just keeps
Oh, I
growing.
know.
It gets
Yeah.
better and better. And I got to meet her when we were in the solo festival in
Right.
Sudaraya in Iceland.
Yeah, right.
And then we went for a walk at you might say at sunset, and then talked more and
That's
found out how much
great.
we had in common. So it was marvelous.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really neat. Yeah. Oh, she's, she was like her just, she was in Times Square or something. She was in something.
Oh, really?
You know about that? Yeah.
Well, she
She's
keeps very
she's all
busy.
over the place. Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So anyway, and you and I met because of, we have to mention Richard Skipper
Absolutely.
on his show. Richard
Yeah.
Skipper Celebrates. That's how we met on a panel.
Amazing. Yeah. Well,
Months
this is
ago.
the serendipity of how these things happen. And I'm so glad it happened. And I got to learn about you and all the marvelous shows that you're doing and everything you've done. So I'm so grateful.
Well, I'm honored for somebody like you.
Well, thank you.
Four Fulbrights.
Ah,
Right?
well.
You got 4 Fulbrights.
Yes.
Goodwill Culture Ambassador. You've been performing all over the world, internationally acclaimed solo performer for 23 years, playing Harold Clurman.
Mm-hmm.
So someone like you, if you're like a fan of mine, it really has like made such a difference in my life. I have to tell you.
Well, I'm very grateful. Well, that's what we're in life for. We're here to encourage and support one another.
Right.
And that's what I do. And that's
really
what I continue to do. Now I'm actually beginning my 24th year touring, which is amazing on top of everything else. And then I've been across the country to 20 states. And then I got invited to perform at the World Olympics, World Theater Olympics that they have every year. And it was about 2 years ago, it was held in New Delhi. At the National School of Drama, but then they had performances all across the country, and they even flew me down to Kerala to actually perform my show for the second time. Oh, and thank you for putting my websites there. That's very kind of you.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So it's been a great blessing. Yes. Yeah. And well, it's something that continues to evolve and grow, and I'm going to be doing it the rest of my life because it's such a powerful, compelling show, and it's inspiring. You know, it takes people on a whole journey, and they get to meet someone that, for a lot of the time, they may not know about, and his name was Harold Clurman.
Right.
And so I embody him. I bring him to life in the show, and he was one of my teachers, along with Stella Adler and Grit.
Which is incredible.
Yeah, that was a great blessing. And but when I was studying with Stella and Harold, I had no idea that I was going to be creating this show. You know, it's the way it turned out. I mean, at that time, I was doing a lot of film and television in New York and a lot of commercials and soap shows and things. But there came a point in time when I was starting to work on my full-length play about the group theater called The Group.
Right.
Which eventually had its world premiere out at Northern Illinois University. And I was doing several stage presentations of it across the city, at the Neighborhood Playhouse, at the Harold Clurman Theater, at the Stella Adler Theater, many theaters, including the Actors Studio and the York Theater. And I was, of course, bringing Harold Clurman to life in the show. And someone said, well, you really should think about creating your own show as Harold Clurman.
Right.
And I thought, I don't know if that's really something I can do, because that's going to be really going out there on a whole limb and bringing someone as powerful and volcanic. I mean, he was a dynamo. You know, when I was in his classes, it was like a 120-mile-an-hour hurricane, a typhoon coming at you, and you were just swept into it all. And so it was magnificent. And but I wrote to Stella Adler, and I asked her, I was thinking of maybe creating a show about bringing Harold Clurman to life. And she wrote back and she said, oh, no, darling, no one can play Harold. But then at the bottom, she wrote, P.S., but if you have to, go ahead.
Oh,
so
that's great. That's amazing. That's really cool.
And I really believe that the show, even though I did enormous amount of research and read all of his extraordinary books on directing in the fervent years, which I highly recommend, and learned all about his extraordinary life, being certainly one of the greatest directors of the 20th century and a masterful acting teacher. And of course, he was considered America's greatest drama critic as well. But not only was he called that, but Arthur Miller called him the most important theater critic in the country. But he was the most passionate human being you could ever meet. So I finally, after many months of research, I finally put everything aside and I said, okay, so Harold, what do you want to say? And I had to listen. He told me what he wanted to say. And that's how the show evolved. But it's one thing to create a one-person show, as you know. It's another thing that if you're going to embody the person. So I'm sure, as you know, I go through a 2.5-hour transformation in what I call the creation room. It's not the dressing room. And, as I'm laying out all of his clothing, because there's no such thing as a costume. It's the clothing of the human being, which I teach. And then I'm putting on his makeup. And at some point in time, because he's almost 80 years old, at some point in time, he literally arrives and I'm an open vessel and he comes and enters me. And I can feel my whole body change, my blood changes, my cells change, and I know he's arrived.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's incredible.
Thank you.
It is amazing. It's like gives goosebumps. It gives you goosebumps to hear. It's incredible.
It's always been that way. And so when he gets dressed and I'm inside, he's preparing, to go to the theater, and he goes to the theater and then he's coming back, and when he leaves the creation room, he's on his way to his apartment. And so when he enters his apartment, he's not going on stage. He's not going in front of an audience. He's literally going into his apartment. He's there to do what he's done. He's living. That's what we have to allow these people to do. They have to live.
Right.
And so, and he, of course, is talking to 3 students that he sees, and the audience become the students. But at some point in time, he does break the 4th wall, and he takes us back to 1930, when he was a younger Harold Clurman, and when he gave his famous talks. He talked for 25 weeks, and he literally talked the group theater into existence. Wow. He was so inspirational.
So cool.
It's
that was
amazing.
So cool. That is so neat. That's amazing.
He was a shy person.
Really?
When he started out, he was very shy, and some people, his roommate in Paris when he studied at the Sorbonne was Aaron Copland, and they were actually cousins. And when Harold Clurman began talking and becoming this extraordinary persona he became, letting it all out and talking about what the theater needs to be and how we need to change the face of the American theater, Aaron Copland and other people looked at him and said, "Who is this person? This was nothing like the person I knew before." So he really came out of his shell.
Yeah.
And,
yes, I can relate to that. I'm telling you. I just have to say really quick, when I was 16, I was very shy until I was 16. And really? I remember the day that I came out of my shell.
Wow.
I went to a party and all of a sudden I came out of my shell. I told my mother. So I can relate to that. All of a sudden this personality just came out.
Wow.
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. But when did all the hats and the color and everything arrive?
Oh, I grew up with a lot of color.
Ah.
My mother was an interior designer, so our house was very colorful. So that's a whole story I talk about in my show.
Oh my goodness. Yes, it is.
Color.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny because when I was in high school and in junior high school, I went through a phase where everything I wore mismatched. I had striped shirts, plaid pants, 2 different color socks. I painted my shoes. I painted everything that I wore. I put things and pictures and things all over it.
Wow.
And people were like, what's going on with you?
Yeah, right.
You totally mismatched. I had a polka dot bow tie and all these kinds of things. I had, those in those days, the Saturday Night Fever shoot, heels that high that I painted and everything. And,
that's a riot.
Yeah, and it was just the same thing. I loved
We're
color.
artists.
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
know, right? And that's cool. Yeah, that's really neat. Yeah, so that's neat that Harold came out of a shell and he
Yeah,
became this persona.
he did. He
Yeah,
did.
that's neat. That's really
And
neat.
that's what happens when audiences, generally, because I have performed in 26 countries, when you go to a country like Nepal or Belarus or Zimbabwe or
Uh-huh.
Thailand, of course they don't know who Harold Clurman is.
Right.
But as soon as he arrives, they fall instantly in love with his energy and his
Uh-huh.
passion.
Right.
And when I was in Malaysia for 6 weeks through the Fulbright program, they said to me at several theaters, because the cultural department, because it went so well, made a tour for me to take me across the country. So I went to state theaters and theater schools to teach and to perform. But when I got there, the artistic directors who ran these state theaters said, now we have to be honest with you. They speak, several different languages.
Uh-huh.
One of them, not particularly, is English very well. So be prepared that they will probably leave by the middle of your show. They don't stick
Wow.
around. That's just not the way that audiences do it in Malaysia.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Well, every time I did my show, they were there at the end and they wanted to come up on stage and take pictures with Harold Clurman.
Wow. Oh,
They
that's
wanted
so
to look
cool.
at his table, all the
Uh-huh.
things that he has.
Oh, that is so neat. That's really cool. That's really neat.
Yes, it's
That's
always been
great.
that way. And I've had the
Wow.
play translated with titles above,
Yeah.
the translation. And last time I was just in Greece for 6 weeks at the University of Patras. When I did the show downtown in Patras at the Lithographian Theater, I had a wonderful person, and she actually translated the whole show. And during the performance, she put it up above my head in Greek. And so everyone was laughing and enjoying the show.
Great. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm just so amazed. I'm sure everybody is always amazed by you. Okay, so let's talk about your book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love your
There
book.
it
It was so great. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you so
I
much.
really like, and you wrote this during the pandemic, right? Because
I
you did
did.
tour.
My show was stopped and I had no idea that I would be writing a book. But I thought, at the end of February, when I did the last show and I couldn't go on the road, I
Right.
thought, what am I going to do? I mean, what can I do? I mean,
Mhm.
and then it sort of, some of these words appeared and they said, well, if you can't go out, you're going to find a way to share what you do. And you have to talk about the art of transformation, because I believe that every day we wake up and we're a new you. And we have to transform ourselves for this new day. And I believe in that. And there's an art to it, how we open ourselves up in a positive way. And so this particular book is talking about the organic process of the art of transformation on stage. But I talk also a lot about what it takes to be a human being.
Right. Well, that's why I wanted to read a little bit, because
thank
it's
you.
a very inspiring book. Okay, it's not
You're
just for
very kind.
actors and solo performers. Yet you do interview a lot of interesting, fascinating performers, and it's like really cool when you ask them. There's a quick Q&A,
Yes.
and it's really inspiring too. Okay, so I'm going to read this. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Where's one of the best? Okay, wait, no. Okay, one's up there. Okay, well, where's one of the best places to start? With humor, laughter, spontaneity, surprising yourself. Just smile and let it take off and turn into a laugh. And not just a laugh, an uproarious bellowing laugh. Once you let go and have fun, which is, I'm all about that, let exuberance fill your entire being and all of those around you. Fall down, pick yourself up, fall down again, let the world spin. Everything's topsy-turvy. Keep laughing out loud. Tell yourself corny jokes. Watch a lot of comedy. Fill your heart full of joy. Sing, dance to your heart's content. Restore and balance your bloodstream. This is what your body's hungry for. Lots and lots of fun. Your body's constantly reacting to everything it hears every day. All right. So anyway, the point is that this is what I'm all about. And that's my mission with the Smile Revolution, everything. So I just loved what you wrote there. And it's so true. I always say that the world needs more fun and joy and laughter and smiling.
Yes.
So can you talk more about that? Like,
Well, it's one of the marvelous things I always share in my workshops. Everywhere I travel with my show, I teach my Art of Transformation Master Workshop, and I've been doing that for 24 years now. And when I was just in Patras, for example, I always find ways to open the students up, because that's what it's all about: opening ourselves up each day, listening with new ears, seeing with new eyes, opening our heart and soul. So what I also do, which is so much fun, and I did it in every single class, whether I was teaching teaching a dance class or teaching a scenic design class, I got the students up, and then I actually taught them, "Oh, what a beautiful morning," and I taught them each phrase, and then I taught them the melody for each phrase, and then we learned the whole song and we sang it all together, and then I turned them into cowboys and cowgirls who are dancing together, and then we sing the whole song together. And by the end of it, they are so full of laughter and joy and having such a great time. That's what
great.
I believe. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's so inspiring to hear, to read everything, your mission and everything. Okay, now, okay, there's something else I want to read. Okay, then you talk about there should be truth in thought, truth in speech, and truth in action. I see and find beauty in truth or through truth. All truth, not merely true ideas, but truthful faces, truthful pictures or songs are highly beautiful. And then I tell my students, you are truth, you are love, you are peace. Each of you carries a gift to the world to tell your stories. This is how we heal one another.
Mm-hmm. Well, at the beginning of that, you were reading Gandhi's words, and they're so powerful and so meaningful. And I always talk about him and share his words in class, because we need to be constantly inspiring ourselves. And when we talk about truth, I always ask students, and I ask one another, even in the Q&A, I always have a Q&A at the end of my show. Sometimes it even goes on longer than the performance.
Wow.
And sometimes I have to do it with a translator next to me. But I talk about what is the simple truth of life? What do we see each day? Do we take the time to touch a flower or touch a leaf and find the truth of that, or look at a cloud and let the truth of nature touch our hearts? And, read a poem each day, or a sonnet, something that has truth in it. And then I say, you are truth, because you can create a new poem today that you didn't think about. And I always ask the students, okay, who's a poet? And of course, there's one or two. And I say, you're all poets. And we're going to create a poem right now.
Okay.
And it's true. And then one of the other things I do in class is I say, how many of you can fly? And of course, they look at me like, excuse me, what? And I say, okay, we're going flying. And I literally take them flying, because I walk them through this process of becoming birds. And I talk them through the experience of, as a bird, taking off and then flying, and what they see down below, and as they're traveling and landing and flying around a mountaintop and returning and everything. And by the time of it, they come back and they say, oh my God, I really went flying.
Wow.
And that's the magic of the truth that's inside us, that can come out when we let our imagination take us.
That's really neat.
That's
really cool. Now, what about, is there anything else we should talk about your book before we go on to another topic? Okay, I'm just going to say here.
Sure.
You have over 20 interviews with Christopher Plummer, Ben Vereen, who I met years ago, Eve Ensler, Billy Crudup, Olympia Dukakis, Spalding Gray, and let's see, you have so many interesting people in here.
Yeah.
That's really inspiring too. Eve Ensler,
Yeah. Somebody like Margot Gomez and these kind of Elizabeth Van Dyke, these kind of performers really have taken the time to examine themselves. Now Elizabeth is running the a new federal theater, so that sometimes their life goes on a different path, But even if, and I'd like to say this, even if you've never thought about creating your own show, and you'd be surprised what lies inside that you can let out and let go and surprise yourself. And it doesn't have to be a long show. It can
Well,
be
could be just a story. I mean,
Yeah.
storytellers, because some people just do stories.
That's right. Exactly.
Storytellers, yeah.
Like the other night, you said you just did 7 minutes, right?
Yeah, it went by so fast.
It
I'm
does.
used to doing an hour. And I'm like, 7
Right.
minutes. Oh, God. But it was great. It was fun, though, to be able to do 7.
That's
like,
beautiful.
okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
Well, that's the joy of being in the moment,
Yeah.
and that's what it takes. Every second of the day of being in the moment, and then of course when you're on the stage, there's no other place you can be but be in the moment. You know,
Right.
A lot of people I tell, and I always ask this question: do any of you have any fear or doubt or scared about anything? And surprisingly, a lot of people raise their hands and say, I'm scared all the time, or I have a lot of nerves and I'm worried, and of course I get nervous, in front of people.
Yeah.
And I always spend the time talking about how to work on your focus, because once you do, you take the focus off of others and you take it off of yourself, and you put all of your energy and focus into what you're doing.
Right.
And once you do that, you're not thinking about anything else. You're right there in the moment, and it really does help. But it's practice, like anything in this world.
I pray before I go on stage.
That's
That's how I do it. I'm like, I just
Uh-huh.
like go to God. I'm like, just you do it, and just
that's
how I-
wonderful.
yeah.
That's great.
Anyway, okay, so I have your website here, soulamericanactor.com, and that's a
Thank you.
newspaper for actors.
Yes, that's right. Yes, I've been doing my newspaper now for 26 years. It's the only newspaper in the country about the art and craft of the actor and the art of the theater. So if you go to the website, soulamericanactor.com, you'll see it. It's one of the biggest issues, probably the biggest I've ever done. There's 40, 50, 60 pages of interviews, essays, articles. It's an amazing compilation of dancers, actors, singers, composers, musicians, scenic designers, costume designers, people from all over the world, because I also have an international section as well. I think it's so important that all the arts come together. And then I also have repeats of interviews that I've done in the past with people like Olympia Dukakis is there, and Brian Cox, and many others, and wonderful dancers and choreographers and singers. And it's so important that when people visit the website, that they also go to see some of the other things that are there. For example, I have a section on Native American playwrights, articles about Native Americans in arts as well.
Oh, that's wonderful that you're doing that, because I was married to a Native American musician and artist whose work has been in the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Wow.
Roland Moose. I should introduce you to his work.
Okay.
Because Native Americans really need to have more publicity, and I feel like now is the time they are starting to.
Thank goodness. Yes, it's about time. And I was very grateful to get to know Oren Lyons, who's one of the most.
Yeah, I've met him. Yeah, Roland's friends with him. Yeah.
Yeah, just wonderful. And it's so important that we share these ideas. And the other book that I I created 3 books, but the book before Solo Transformation on Stage is called Create.
I have it.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I have it over here.
How extraordinary people live to create and create to live. And I have 130 interviews. And one of them is with Apriana Taylor, who's a Maori poet. And then I have people from about 14, 15, 16 countries in the book as well. So it's so important. And to share these ideas, I have several different Native Americans, from a Hopi filmmaker as well.
That's great.
A playwright from out west, and so it's very, very important to share.
That's amazing.
Ideas.
What just happened? Okay, we just had
Thank you.
that thing. Okay, well, that's wonderful. That's so great. I don't know if
you.
Do you ever sleep? I mean, you sound like I just
remember, what is that? What is that exactly?
No, I'm saying it's amazing. Like all the work that you do, it's incredible. So the interviews you've done over the years, some of those are in your book, right? The Create book.
Yeah, in the Create book, some
yeah.
I've done in the Soul of the American Actor, and then I did some that especially for Create, like the interview with Chaka Khan, the interview with Carol Burnett, several different people. I especially did, which are unique for the book as well.
Right.
And then I asked some of the people in the book, and some volunteered, I'd like to have a lot of art in the book. So, of course, I approached Kinsler, the great portrait artist, and I have several of his work, and he was very gracious to have his portraits in the book. And then I have several by Al Hirschfeld, who was the artist of my newspaper.
That's amazing.
He gave me permission to use hundreds of his art.
That's amazing.
And so there are several in the book. And then I asked several of the actors, or performers, or different choreographers, like Tommy Toon gave me a beautiful painting, and Stephen Lang gave me a drawing, and Sir Derek Wolcott gave me one of his paintings. So you'll see extraordinary art in the book as well.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's your life is so incredible. It's just like everything you do. It's so wonderful, really. I feel very honored.
Well, I feel honored to spend the time with you as well. That's what it's all about. We have to honor one another, and it makes a difference in this world. It's so important that we appreciate the time we have and appreciate what others bring to this world, and it's invaluable. I mean, we're so gifted with so many blessed people, and it's so important I always tell my students, you have to keep reading, you have to open yourself up to new ideas, go to the museums. That's what Stella Adler said to me, because I was with her for almost 6 years.
Wow.
And she said that's one of the most important things that you have to do as a human being and I always also remind people to one of the most important books is Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements.
Yeah, I know that book. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really reminds us how to look at ourselves. And it's funny now when I do my workshop with a lot of students, and I've had workshops with people who are taxi cab drivers and doctors and lawyers, but it's been interesting. But I always tell them that you have to take the time to look at books that can open you up and awaken your compassion and your kindness to others.
Well, do you have a spiritual practice? Like, how do you keep your thought so uplifted and inspired?
Well, I mean, I spend my time, every week I have to prepare myself, because I'm going to be continually doing Harold Clurman for the rest of my life.
Right.
So I have to stay in a very life-affirming way, because he was such a great humanist and had such strong passions. But, we live in a world that, of course, a lot of things are happening. Right. So you have to find a balance. Right. You have to find a way to, you just can't turn your back on what's happening in the world.
Exactly, right.
You have to remain a compassionate human being.
Right.
And so I do a lot of affirmations, and I read uplifting thoughts, whether it's Louise Hay or Gandhi or, the Dalai Lama.
Right.
But it's so important, or Krishnamurti, it's so important to embrace thoughts and positive thoughts that will lift you, so that you can continue to share the best of yourself with others.
Right.
Yeah, so important. And of course, love makes the world go around. So we have to open up our hearts.
Be loving.
And exactly.
And be loved. Right.
Light to others, so that they can also have light as well.
I just want to share that Miss Wow here, she is like, I just have to say, she's so happy to be a part of this interview.
Oh, that's very sweet. Well,
she's
it's
really
such
enjoying being with you, too.
Wow.
And she's there. I just wanted to,
wow.
I just wanted to acknowledge that she's listening and with us today.
Thank you.
She felt inspired because of you.
Oh, that's very sweet. Well, it's so funny. Growing up, I remember listening to Fran and Kukla Ali as a child, and Captain Kangaroo. And
me too,
puppets have been very big part of my life. And I actually have a puppeteer in my book, Create. And I also have a mime artist as well. And it's extraordinary, because it's all related to our joy.
It is.
To our humor.
Yeah.
Right. It's so important.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I love behind you. You have that big smile.
The smile bag. I've got the smile, and I got the smile bag. And actually, I think I will, because I showed you before the show.
Ah, there it is.
My ukulele.
Yes, it's beautiful.
How I decorate. It's fun.
Wow.
It's a joy machine.
Exactly.
Right.
Thank you.
So anyway, okay. So we also want to talk about your opera,
Oh, well, thank you.
Ibsen.
Yes, yes. Well, it's been an amazing journey because I never in a million years imagined that I'd ever become a librettist of an opera.
Right.
Even though I grew up as a child watching the live operas from the Met on television, because I grew up in Florida, and you know, every summer we would come to New York to see a few shows on Broadway, which was extraordinary. But the live operas certainly must have had an impression. But I was sleeping one night, and all of a sudden I heard these words. And what I do is I leave a pad and a pen always near me in the darkness. And if something comes, I write it down.
Mm-hmm.
Hint, hint.
Yeah,
Very important
right.
thing
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
And so these words came, and I had no idea what they were. But out of them, when I wrote them out in the morning, it seemed to be it was Henrik Ibsen talking to Nora. And they were having a dialogue. And then a few weeks later, I had no idea that it would happen again. And then words came again. Ibsen was talking to his wife. And then a few weeks later, Ibsen was talking to Hedda Gabler. And I had no idea what these words were and what they were. So I've done 5 tours across India with my show to about a dozen universities and festivals. And on one of the trips, I went to Oroville, which is all the way down in the south, and a beautiful woman by the name of Jill Navarre, who's the artistic director of the theater group there. They have a beautiful theater, the Aurobindo Theater, where I performed. She looked at all of these words, and I thought, is this a play? Is this a poem? Or what are these words? And she said, you know, the way that they are spaced and the way that they are simple and what they are, this is an opera, and you're going to have to learn how to write a libretto. And I actually know a composer who's a German composer here. He lives here half the year in India. And I'm going to introduce you, and you both are going to create the first opera ever written about Ibsen.
Wow.
And so we spent 10 years. I had to spend at least 8 or 9 months learning what a librettist was, reading some of the great librettos ever written, learning how you have to write a libretto, and I did. And so we worked together, but we did a lot of things like we're doing now on Zoom or online, emailing each other. And after 10 and a half years, we completed the opera. And it's been under consideration by Seattle Opera and by the Finland National Opera Company. And now it's also being considered by a very influential director. So now the next step, of course, is to have the world premiere. About 2 years ago, before the pandemic hit, we were going to do the first premiere performance in India and take it on a world tour across Asia.
Wow.
But of course, the pandemic came and everything had to end. But now it's time for a new beginning. And so now we're going to have the world premiere of the first opera ever written about Ibsen.
And that's going to be in India?
No, I think it may be in Scandinavia.
Oh.
It was going to be in India, but things have changed now. So now this is the direction we're going on. But I'm open, whatever the universe provides, that's okay with me.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Okay, now what about your film about the group theater?
Yes, well, as I mentioned, I spent about 25, 30 years working on the full-length play about the group, which is a very hard piece to write. And it went through probably 30, 40 drafts. Wow. And then about 15 years ago, I decided that it needed to be for a wider audience, and I created a film and I learned how to write a screenplay. It took me 7 years, and it's a constant. You're still learning every single day. Always learning from the masters like William Goldman and so many others. And so you know, I've seen thousands of films throughout my life, and so you learn in a sense what works and what doesn't work, what needs. So it's gone through probably close to 40 or 50 drafts. Wow. I've worked with different collaborators, but now I've taken it to a different place. And just a few months ago, wrote almost an entirely new screenplay. It's called Group Paradise. It's about the first summer of the group theater. Wow. And it's pretty exciting. I think it's going to be an amazing film. And of course, you get to meet all of the original founding members of the group.
Which were who? Who were they?
Well, Stella Adler and Lee Strasberg and Harold Clurman and Cheryl Crawford and Clifford Odets and Elia Kazan, people like Francois Tone, and of course all the amazing, really extraordinary actors who were part of it, like Morris Karnofsky and Phoebe Brand and so many others. It's just an extraordinary opportunity. But I also have Rose McClendon, who was also in the first play that they did, who's a very important part. She was one of the first great Black actresses of the American stage. She was called the Black Eleonora Duse. And it was one of the most important actresses in the first play the group theater did, called The House of Connolly on Broadway, right where Moulin Rouge is playing right now. And so she's very, very essential to the whole arc of the film, as well as you also meet Jacob Adler and several others, including Eugene O'Neill in the film. So it really takes you not only into the story of the group, but you also follow along a young actress from 1976 who was studying with Stella Adler, and she actually travels back in time to the 1930s, and that's how she becomes a member of the group theater. So extraordinary piece, taking you further into the past, into the present, into this moment. And so it's been quite a journey. So
that is amazing. That is so cool.
Thank you.
So as in your touring, you're probably writing on the planes, and you're like, right? You're always like.
Well, I mean, I did for quite a few years. Now that the opera is written, I mean, these words that came through me pretty much were the opera, except working with Hartmut von Leers, who's the composer. He wants, of course, and every composer does, he wants certain things to repeat themselves. He wants something to be added here and there. So as you go along, you have to adapt your libretto to the composer. So it's a real process of a give and take. And you have to be willing to do that. And that's necessary for the opera to get better and better. But it's an extraordinary piece, the opera, because Ibsen has traveled back in time. And I kept wondering why. And it's because he looks at people. This is right before he enters the next realm and leaves the earth, because he's had a stroke. It's at the end of his life, but he is trying to make peace. And he realizes, what have I accomplished in my life? People do not change. Why don't they change? I've written these plays. Do they really mean anything? And of course, you're watching Ibsen every year in a new production on Broadway. But of course, the question is, do people walk out of the theater and question who they are because of what they've seen in the theater? Now, theater, you have to say, does it change people? Well, no, people change people. We change ourselves, but we can be influenced. We can be guided to look and see something we didn't see before about ourselves, how people treat one another.
Right.
And that's the impact of theater. And it awakens our soul and makes us go, I never thought about that life in that way before. And that's the amazing thing about live theater. And that's why even in the age of AI that's coming up, nothing is going to replace live performers.
Right, exactly.
You know, that's the beating part in front of us. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, so, and then with your screenplay, you've just rewritten it, you're saying, and then...
Well, I just rewrote it, and I think it's better than ever. And so I've gotten it out to a few Hollywood producers now.
Good. Okay,
so we're going to see, and there's another director who's interested in it.
Oh,
so
good.
I know it's going to get made. That's the
great. That's exciting. I can't wait to see it.
Enormous faith. Yes, thank you.
That is so great.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you.
And okay, so how did you get into like all the things you're doing? Like from your child, I just want to go back to your childhood. Like your mother was an artist, right?
My mother was a watercolor painter and an extraordinary painter, and she painted probably thousands and thousands of paintings because she lived to 97, and I just lost her a few months ago.
I know. I'm sorry.
Thank you. And but she painted until she was 95, and
and you're a painter too.
I am. I paint every day. I go to the park and I have to paint. I'm sort of an impressionist painter.
Yeah.
And it's been
I
part
love
of
your
my
paint.
life.
Your paintings are great too.
Thank you. Yes, if you go to Let It Be
Very
Art,
colorful. They're colorful.
thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, it's so important. So I was painting by the time I was about 3 or 4. I had a
Wow.
paintbrush in my hand, and my mother
Okay.
encouraged me. But then I was also imitating people enormously everywhere I went. And so my father, and because I was all over the map, my father and mother finally said, we've got to put him into a drama school or someone.
Right. Yeah.
So
Right.
I went into a woman who had a stage in her house. When I was about 5 years old,
Okay.
I was taken there, and we all sit around the table, and we would look at sonnets or poetry, or get up on stage and do improvisations.
Right.
And that's how I started very, very young.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing time. And so even then, I joined very soon, about 7 or 8, a professional children's theater company. So by the time I left Florida and went to study with Stella Adler, I had done over 300 professional children's shows.
That's
and then
amazing.
at the same time, I was doing, Shakespeare and doing shows on Miami Beach. I even was doing stand-up on Miami Beach at some of the hotels.
When you're a child?
When I was about 12 and 13 and 14 years old.
That's amazing.
I love it so much. And well, you see, one of my favorites that I love to do. I mean, everybody loves Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
So I used to do Jimmy quite a bit.
Okay.
And he used to have his friend Harvey too. I mean, as a 6-foot white puka.
Okay.
And then so I would do Jimmy Stewart, and then I would do someone like Richard Nixon. Let me make it perfectly clear. I am the president, and make no mistake. And so I do a lot of impressions growing up as a child.
Okay.
And
Well, that's so great. You had a supportive family.
I did. I was very, very blessed. And so by the time I went to study with Stella Adler in New York, and with Harold Clurman and with Grotowski, very soon after I arrived, just in about a year and a half, I was already in an off-Broadway show, acting with Richard Dreyfuss and Thomas Hulse, doing Julius Caesar out at the Brooklyn Academy of Music at BAM. So it was an amazing journey. So I got to know a lot of wonderful people very early on. And, you just keep doing it.
And how old were you when you moved to New York? That is it, yeah.
Well, it was right out of high school, so I was about 17 and a half. And that's when I started with Stella. And then I found out Harold Clurman was teaching. And then Grotowski came to New York City and was teaching at Columbia University. And so I was fortunate to study with him as well. So over the years, I've taken workshops and studied with Bobby Lewis for a year, and with Joseph Chaikin, a lot of fabulous teachers. That's one of the most important things I tell young people who want to learn and grow as actors is you have to keep studying. You have to keep working on your craft. It's so necessary. And that's why I keep doing my show, and I'll be doing it the rest of my life. But I'm always in rehearsal every week, preparing for the next performance. And I've just been invited, when I taught at the National University of Athens on this past trip, they extended an invitation for me to come back in October to do my show again in Athens. So I may be going to this extraordinary WAEE Global Arts Education Summit in Athens in October. And it's all about harmony and unity and education and arts. And so it'll be a wonderful opportunity to come back, as I love Greece. It was a beautiful country. That's one of the joys of traveling, is you get to know the country, but you also get to know the people. So important. And I met such beautiful people when I was in Patras this time, and they really touched my heart so much. I mean, one, Dr. Katia Savrami, her partner is Pano, and he has these incredible lemon trees outside of his house, and he gifted me with some of the lemons, which were about this big.
Wow, my God.
I know.
That's incredible.
Pretty incredible.
Wow.
And then sometimes I travel with or without the cane that the walking stick that Harold Clurman uses. And this particular trip, I didn't have it with me. So his father actually carves the goat herders' sticks that they use to herd the goats on the hills of the mountains there in Greece.
Mm-hmm.
So he came, when I was in his home, he said, I have something for you. And he said, use this. And he gifted me, and I was able to use one of these special goat herder canes that they use. And I used it during the performance. So this has happened over the years in so many places.
That's really neat. That's
yes,
great.
Thank you.
That is really neat. So is there anything else that you wanted to, did we miss anything? I mean, there's so much to talk about, but how did you get all your Fulbrights? You've got 4 Fulbrights?
I did. I've been very blessed. Well, the first Fulbright, what it is you're chosen by the Fulbright program.
Oh, okay.
You can either be chosen as a Fulbright scholar, meaning you go to a country to work on a paper or to, work on a research paper, or you become a Fulbright specialist, which is a visiting guest professor. And they choose certain, they very limited. They get thousands of applications each year, and they only choose very few. And I've been very blessed to be chosen twice by the Fulbright program. First for a 5-year tenure, meaning within those 5 years you're eligible to get a Fulbright. But that doesn't necessarily mean you will get one.
Oh.
A lot of people become Fulbright scholars or specialists and don't even get one.
Oh, I see.
But I made it my business to really see if I could and contact people. And so right out of the gate, you might say, when I was chosen in 2013, I immediately went to Bosnia and Herzegovina for 6 weeks as the first Fulbright ever invited to Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I taught at the Academy of Dramatic Arts through the University of Sarajevo for 6 weeks, which was an incredible experience. And then I'm also an international director because while I was there, the head of Chamber Theater 55, which is one of their most prestigious theaters of their country, invited me, and he said, we like to laugh. We need to laugh.
Right.
Can you direct a comedy? And I said, I know just the comedy. It's called Love, L-U-V, by Murray Shishkel. It's one of the funniest shows ever written.
Really?
It's a huge hit on Broadway with Eli Wallach and Alan Arkin and Ann Jackson, and it was made into a movie. I actually was in the production up at the Barnstormers Theater in Summerstock Theater. So I knew the show really well. And I said, okay, I will direct the show. And he gave me 3 of the finest actors in all of Bosnia. It's like, can you imagine having the finest comedic actress, the Lucille Ball of Bosnia,
that's amazing,
and having the one of the hottest young comedy stars who's on the hit show, Bosnia's comedy show. So I had 3 very fine people in the show, and it became a hit, and it ran for 8 years.
Wow.
And it was pretty extraordinary. So I was able to do that while I was there. Then I was chosen again for my second Fulbright in Malaysia for 6 weeks at the University of Malaya. And so I became the first Fulbright specialist they ever had at the Cultural Center in 40 years there. And so that was pretty extraordinary. And then I was chosen for my third Fulbright down in Paysandú, Uruguay, at the Paysandú Theater Group School. And so I went there for 5 weeks. And now I've just been awarded, and I was so grateful to receive my 4th Fulbright to travel to Greece for 6 weeks through the Fulbright program. So the State Department is pretty extraordinary in helping us bridge countries and allow us to share our gifts with others and to learn from others. It's really a two-way street. That's truly what it's about, that's learning and sharing and growing from each other.
That's great. That's really
neat. Thank you.
So to wrap this up, was there anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to say?
Well, I would like to read a little something from my book, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so important to remind people. Because at the end of one of my performances when I was in Sri Lanka, in Colombo, I did a workshop for 130 students after I did my performance. And there were actually 2 translators and 3 languages being translated, English and Sinhala and Tamil.
Uh-huh.
And so we became like a family, even 130 people at the end. And so I said to them, in the moment you allow transformation to take place, it takes on a life of its own. What's occurring is a shift in consciousness, requiring that you make your way step by step, finding out who you are and who this other person is. How different are they from you? And once you discover that, you begin the process of allowing to merge with them and them to merge with you. And how does that begin? With your breath. With each breath that I take in my creation room, I invite a new life force to enter me. By being a willing and open vessel, a new world appears that I can step into. And so at the end of the workshop, I took their hands and we all held hands in a circle. And I said to them, what we have shared today has shown us a way forward to see how expansive we can become, to look at one another with love, and to know that we can, through our art, through our common bond, feel the grace of healing. We know that we're all connected, and the peace you seek is at the core of your being. So let the peace come, surround you with bliss, be at peace, for only you know what you must do. Be the peace you seek. Accept the moment and fill yourself with light. Know that you're never alone because we are all one. We're a community of artists connected by a love of humanity.
That's
so
great.
I just wanted to share those words.
Thank you. No, that was great. Yeah, no, your book is very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're so inspiring.
Well,
and yeah, it's been a really fascinating to get to know you and all the work that you do. You just share so much good for others.
It's a pleasure to be on your show, Princess Wow. It's such a joy, and such a joy to meet you. You're bringing so many smiles and light into the world. So keep going.
I am. I'm going to keep going, and you too.
Thank you.
We just keep going forward, right?
Exactly. That's right.
And great. So anyway, thank you so much for spending the time with me and my audience. And I will be talking to you very soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Much love.
Much love to you.
Okay. See you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that interview, and either live or on replay. And I just want to show you, I know the show's gone a little bit long for me, but I want to show you a few pictures from his show really quick, and then I will close the show. Okay, hold on one sec. I'm going to go off for a second. Anyway, good. I'm glad, Nancy, you enjoyed it. He is like, I know, I kept saying amazing. I got to stop saying the same adjective. But anyway, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I'm sure others will watch and replay. So I'm going to sign off. I don't know for sure. I'm going to try to do every other week. I may change the Tuesday at 8 because I'm something else, some work came up. So I'm not sure. But I'll let everybody know when I do my next show. It'll be in 2 weeks, so should be. Okay, so I'm going to sign off with my credits. Much love to you all. Keep smiling, keep sweet. Join the Smile Revolution. It's called the Smile Revolution that comes, goes round and back to you. So smile, 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 a simple smile will do. Smile, 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 it comes back to you. Bye.